Some of our crosses are visible and obvious. Some of our crosses are unseen and hidden. Some of our crosses are psychological, emotional, or physical. And sometimes our greatest blessings in life are also our crosses as well. Stephen had a Franciscan vocation, and that vocation also included his priesthood. And as Father James so nicely pointed out, the San Damiano cross that we placed on the casket, that was the call from God for Francis to rebuild my church. In Franciscan spirituality, we tend to find God in the messiness of life. Why did God ask Francis to rebuild the church? It was holy, it was good, but it was also a mess. And Francis was called to be in that messiness, as all Franciscans throughout the centuries, including his father Steve, have been asked to do. Francis of Assisi also formulated our Catholic tradition of Stations of the Cross, and we have them right here in this church, to remind us of what Jesus calls each of us to do, to carry our cross, and also to remind us how messy things can get. In the gospel we just heard, Jesus goes to Calvary, but he is not alone. There's a whole cast of characters who are present. You also can see that in the Stations of the Cross. You can also see that on the San Damiano cross. On the San Damiano cross, there's a whole bunch of people. Jesus is not just the only image on that cross. We hear about two thieves, one on his left, one on his right. And how often in our own lives we have people who are repentant, people who aren't. We have a Simon who physically helped Jesus carry the cross. And with all that's going on, Jesus is worried about his mother. And we have that moving passage with John and Mary. Mother, behold your son. And then he looks at John and says, behold your mother. He was worried about that even at such a time. Veronica, who wipes his face. Joseph of Arimathea, who gives him a grave. Nicodemus, who has perfume. I'd like to ask all of you, what is the cross that you carry? How do we carry that cross? And most importantly, how do we help others carry their crosses? Steve carried many crosses, and we are the cast of characters that God put into his life. Whatever you've done for Steve, whatever you've said to him, whatever you gave him, helped him to understand God better. You know, people think that priests, sisters, and brothers don't need people to know God. After all, we went to the seminary, we've studied God, we've read books, we've got all that taken care of. I got news for you. We need the sacraments, we need prayer, and we need to encounter God in the lives of others. At the ripe old age of 90, Steve was discovering God in new ways, even during his time in the nursing home. He looked at the Bible differently. He carried his cross and saw his faith deepen. He had the hope that we heard about in the first reading from Lamentations, especially that hope that comes in silence. Although his world was very dark at times, he held on to hope. Hope in God's mercy God's grace, and God's forgiveness. As Steve journeyed to the Father, he used our love and concern to carry his cross. May God bless each one of you for your kindness to Steve. And may God's mercy set Steve free.